The moment the biker rolled into the cracked asphalt parking lot behind the old grocery store, the kind of place forgotten by time and mercy, he noticed the boy standing near a rusted shopping cart, thin shoulders stiff with fear, eyes locked onto him with a desperation that felt heavier than the leather on his back, and before the engine even cooled, before sense could catch up to instinct, the boy silently mouthed 4 words that froze the biker's blood mid-flow and changed the course of every life in that place, because the words were not loud, not dramatic, but they carried a terror so raw it felt like a scream without sound. And right here, before the story pulls you any deeper, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that strangers can become lifelines, take a second to like this video, share it with someone who still believes humanity has hope, subscribe to the channel for more real, emotional stories, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Because stories like this connect hearts across the world. The biker's name was Daniel Cross, a man with a past carved into scars and a present built on long roads and longer silences, someone people crossed the street to avoid, yet children and dogs seemed to sense something softer beneath the steel, and as he shut off his bike and followed the direction of the boy's trembling gaze, he saw a woman leaning against a dented sedan near the only exit of the lot, her phone glued to her hand, her eyes sharp and impatient, and it was in that split second that Daniel understood why the boy's lips had formed those words, because the fear in his face was not the fear of punishment or being lost, but the fear of being taken, of being erased, of being handed back to something that hurt in ways no bruises could explain. The boy's name was Lucas Miller, 8 years old, too quiet for his age, carrying the kind of caution usually learned far too early, and though Daniel had no proof, no facts, no authority, something inside him, the same instinct that had kept him alive through years of bad choices and worse nights, told him this was not a misunderstanding, this was a moment where doing nothing would be unforgivable. The challenge came fast and brutal, because intervening meant risk, meant consequences, meant standing between a child and an adult in a world that rarely sides with bikers like him. And yet Daniel rolled his bike slowly forward and positioned it sideways across the narrow exit, blocking the path just enough to delay without provoking, just enough to buy time, while the woman's annoyance turned sharp and her movements grew aggressive, and Lucas's small hands tightened around the strap of his worn backpack as if it were the only thing anchoring him to reality. Minutes stretched into something unbearable as Daniel pretended to adjust his bike, his heart pounding, his mind racing through every possible outcome, knowing the police could arrive and assume the worst of him, knowing the woman could escalate, knowing the boy could be forced away before truth ever surfaced, but he stayed, because sometimes courage is simply refusing to move. What followed was not a dramatic rescue or a cinematic showdown, but a slow unraveling of reality as a store employee noticed the tension, as another customer paused, as questions were asked, as inconsistencies appeared in the woman's story, and as Lucas, emboldened by Daniel's silent presence, finally found the strength to shake his head and step back, revealing a truth that had been buried under threats and fear. And when authorities arrived, the truth did not come easily, but it came, piece by painful piece, exposing a situation that should never have been allowed to exist. And Daniel watched from a distance, hands shaking now that the danger had passed, feeling something crack open inside him as he realized he had been trusted by a child who had every reason not to trust anyone. The days that followed were heavy with paperwork, statements, and quiet follow-ups, yet something unexpected grew in the aftermath, because Lucas remembered the man who blocked the exit, not with anger, but with gratitude, and Daniel, who had spent years believing he was only the sum of his mistakes, began to understand that redemption sometimes arrives disguised as responsibility. Their lives did not magically intertwine into a perfect ending, but a connection remained, a reminder that one choice, one refusal to look away, could alter the trajectory of a life. And as Lucas entered a safer future surrounded by people trained to protect rather than control, Daniel returned to the road changed, carrying the weight of the boy's silent plea as a compass guiding him forward. And now, as this story draws close, if it touched your heart, if it made you pause and feel something real, please like the video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe so these stories keep reaching the people who need them most. And before this ends, take a moment to comment below and tell us what this story made you feel, because your words matter more than you know. And as the camera fades on a quiet parking lot that once held fear and now holds meaning, remember that sometimes heroes are not the ones who speak the loudest, but the ones who notice a child mouthing words too heavy to ignore and choose, against all odds, To stand still and block the only exit until truth has room to breathe.